Hey guys, how are we going? Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Saturday, February the 22nd, 2025. And no drama today, not like the last 2 days. So far, I think we're good. Although we still have 24 hours to get through before the fights actually start. This is Riyadh card I'm talking about. And everyone's made weight. That's probably the main thing. Martin Bacol is on his way from the Congo. Well, he's in Saudi Arabia now, of course, because he's made weight. We'll go over all the fights anyway. I won't go over the weights with everyone. I'm sure you're all across that, and I think you don't need me reading out everyone's weight because everyone's made it, and that's all we need to know. I'm not sure you're going to be too stressed that Virgil Ortis was 153.1 or whatever it was. So we'll get onto it. But it's interesting. I'm going to go over this in a future video, but before I do this, I'll have the earpiece in and I'll put on the radio or a YouTube channel, whatever. And I was just actually listening to D-Style, his channel, D-Style Boxing. And if you don't listen to him again, make sure you subscribe. And I was actually going to try and be on his show, but I'm just swamped at the moment with a lot of stuff going on with other things, and I really just couldn't spare the time to do his show. But I'm sort of a little bit pissed that I didn't, because the subject on there they were talking about, he had Calix on there and Steve Kim, who's a very, very well-renowned journalist, podcaster, whatever it might be, and they were talking about the inactivity of fighters these days and how hard it is to create superstars. And again, I'll go over this after I've listened to the whole thing. I've only listened to like 20 minutes of it out of an hour. But the first 20 minutes was quite riveting when they're talking about, after Canelo, is there going to be a superstar? And I know we sort of have got the superstars to us, the Inoways and Crawfords and Usyks, but in the world scheme, those crossover superstars like the Canelos and Mayweathers and Pacquiao's, and back in the day, the Haglers and Leonards and those types of guys, we don't have those after Canelo goes. Now that's arguable, obviously, but it made a good point. The one thing, again, I'll go over this a little bit more in detail at another time, but the one thing that got me, he said, back in 1993, which is what, 32 years ago, the pound for pound top 10 fought collectively 38 times. So an average of almost 4 fights per fighter, just on average. Last year, the collective was 20 fights, so an average of 2. Now, that means I've got a feeling that Inoways and Canelo Alvarez has probably propped a few up there, although Canelo only fight twice, he doesn't he? But the likes of Crawford and these types of guys have been sort of carried a little bit there, but a collective 20 fights from the top 10, where 30 odd years ago it was 38. Now, I understand with the safety aspects, and there's a lot more money these days and everything that's there to be made, they don't need to fight more often. But is it to the detriment of having those superstars that, you know, those crossover stars that the punters out there can sort of get behind and follow, and in return as well give a lot of the young and up and coming prospects big fight cards to fight on? Now, I know we have the big fight cards at the moment in Riyadh, but the big fight cards are for the established stars or world champions, whatever, not those really young up and comers. So it's debatable. I mean, obviously we've seen lately the Cabell Motons and the Abdullah Masons and all these types of fighters. But yeah, is it going to be a thing to really, for those not so, I'm not going to call them casuals because they get all offended, the not so dedicated fans, the obsessed fans like the rest of us, are they going to be noticed by those type of fans? So it's an interesting conversation. That's all I'll say. But onto the Riyadh card. Now, again, all fighters have made weight. Come here, Neil, as he tries to go in someone's yard. Now, they've got this is the one thing I was a little bit curious about, is the order of the fights. Now that everything has sort of changed, is a World Boxing News, I think, is the only one that I've seen so far that put up the actual, what they say is the complete in order fight cards. And I'm a little bit surprised by, not of course surprised by the main event, that's of course Artur Beterbiev and Dimitri Bivol too. Just one thing on the fight card, just because we haven't got enough fights on the card, I think they've added another one, just for good measure. I think it's a light heavyweight fight. So if you were planning to maybe be done by about lunchtime. It could be about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon the way we're going. But all right, so we've got a bit of beef and Dimitro Bivol 2 for the undisputed light heavyweight title. Come on, Neil. Then we have, which is good, still the co-main, Joseph Parker and Martin Bacoli. Now it's going to be for the interim WBO heavyweight title. Joseph Parker already has that, so that's good. At least it keeps him active there, keeps him in the mix, and we will see what happens with, when we get through this, what happens with the Dubois fight after that. A little bit of news on that as well, by the way, I'll get to at the end. Next one, this is the really surprising one. Shakur Stevenson, Josh Padley is next. Then we have Carlos Adames, Hamza Shiraz. Then there's Virgil Ortiz, Israel Madrimov, Azile Zang, Ajit Cabell, Joshua Buatsi, Callum Smith, and then there is 3 other fights before that. So there is a super lightweight fight, a light heavyweight fight, a lightweight fight, a super lightweight fight, and then a light heavyweight fight. The fight that was added was Craig Richardson, Troy Jones, by the way, whoever that is. So they've been added to the card. So there's 3 sort of prelim fights before we hit the prelims. So the order again, so those 3 undercard fights, then or the prelim fights, and there's Buatsi, Smith, Zang, Cabell, Ortiz, Madrimov, which is surprising to me, Adames, Shiraz, Stevenson, Padley, Parker, Bacoli, and then Beterbiev and Bivol. Let's start with, let's start at the bottom of the card, not the 3 prelims, of course, because I really couldn't care less, and I'm not going to watch them, so it doesn't matter. The first fight on the card of the title fights, Joshua Buatsi, Callum Smith. All right, well, come here, man. Look, this will be a tough one. I think more so for Callum Smith. I think Joshua Buatsi, what's this one for? The interim WBO light heavyweight title. I think Buatsi is big, he's strong, he's aggressive, he can punch. A little bit limited as far as the overall skills goes, but I don't think it's going to matter against Callum Smith, who I think has looked a little bit shot for quite some time. One knock I've always had on Smith is there's no aura about him. There's no, he's not a big puncher. He's an okay boxer, but you can really get to him. Yeah, I've just never been a big rap for Callum Smith. I know he's been in a couple of world title fights and obviously fought Canelo and that as well, but I've just always seen him as I'm not going to say fragile, but let's just say he's not the most rock hard type of guy out there, if that makes sense. And there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not questioning his courage or anything like that, but he's just one of those fighters, as I said, he can be got to, and he's not real strong. He's not a big puncher. He just boxes along nicely. And, against those lesser lights, you can probably get away without boxing them. When he comes in against some of the big guys, he's in a bit of trouble. And I just think that's going to be the case. Not that Buatsi is anything like a Canelo or any of these types of guys. I understand that. But I just think Buatsi is going to be a little bit too strong, aggressive. And whatever Smith had to offer a few years ago, I think he's well and truly past that. So I'm going to say Buatsi. I think he could even stop Callum Smith. We'll go with him on points. Let's hope it might be a stoppage. But I think, actually, I will say that I think Buatsi maybe gets to Callum Smith in 9 or 10 rounds. I think Buatsi stops Callum Smith. The next fight, Zile Zang, Ajit Cabell. Well, anything could go in this fight. I mean, you've got a big, strong, massive fighter in Zile Zang, big southpaw, nothing pretty about him, nothing cute. He just comes at you and loves to throw bombs, and he's a big, big guy. I tell you what, him and Bacoli would have been a good match, wouldn't it? Just similar styles, throw caution to the wind and let's go. And against Ajit Cabell, who, look, he's a good fighter. Reminds me a little bit of Justice Huni a little bit in the way he fights, but I actually think Huni's a little bit more overall rounded, skilled-wise. So, look, it'll be entertaining. I really don't know how this fight's going to go, because I think technique-wise and skill-wise, I would have to give the edge to Cabell. But Zang being such a big guy, and Cabell can be hit. And I just worry, well, not worry, I'm a little bit concerned under heavy fire whether Cabell's got what it takes. Because when he gets hit, he's a few times I've seen him fight, the way he reacts, there's no calmness to it, there's no slickness. Come here, man. Just getting past his car, coming out, come on. And I can see Zang hurting Cabell as he comes in and catching him. And one good thing about Zang is he's a good finisher. So I'm actually going to go for Zile Zang in that fight. I think again he can maybe stop Cabell in, let's say, 6 or 7 rounds. It should be a really entertaining fight. Look, it wouldn't surprise me if Cabell, manages to outbox Zang, but I just worry. Just watch a little bit of him lately. I have worries there that he's got the ability when under fire to get out of trouble. He tends to, he gets hit. I won't say he panics, but he gets a bit flustered and leaves himself open to other shots. So I'm going to go with Zang in 6 or 7 rounds in that one. Now this one really surprises me why it's so low on the card. This is Virgil Ortis and Israel Madrimov. I think it's I'm going to say arguably the second best fight on the card, but it's way down there. So look, this is going to be a real entertaining fight. You know what you're going to get sort of from both fighters, especially Ortiz. He's going to come forward, he's going to throw bombs, he's going to try and get inside of Madrimov. Madrimov is almost like a Timu Golovkin, isn't he? I'm not saying that as an insult. Well, maybe it is an insult, but I'm not. He fights very similar, I think, to Triple G, but without that aggression and strength and power. He's a little bit more boxer-ish, but he has got Golovkin type of traits. But I just think Ortiz will be a little bit strong for Madrimov. I think Madrimov looked a lot better than maybe he is because Crawford, this is against Crawford. Excuse the wind here too, guys, if it's coming through. Because Crawford he boxed cautiously, he boxed on the back foot, allowed Madrimov to really, I think, look a little bit better than what he is. I don't think he's going to get that luxury against Virgil Ortiz. I think Virgil Ortiz will get inside, will try and back Madrimov up, and I just think Madrimov maybe on the back foot might not be the same effective fighter as he was against Crawford. And I think Ortiz, I'm not going to say overpowers Madrimov, but I think he'll be a little bit strong on the inside and a bit busier, and I think he'll win a decision over Madrimov. So that's Virgil Ortiz. That's for the interim WBC 154-pound title. I'm picking Virgil Ortiz by a clear points decision in that. Well, I'm not going to say one-sided. Certainly won't be one-sided, but I'm thinking Ortiz wins maybe 8 rounds to 4. All right, next on to the next one. This, again, surprised me why it's probably so high on the card, like the one above it. But Carlos Adames Hamza Shiraz, WBC 160-pound title. Maybe that's why it's so high, because it's actually for the belt, whereas Ortiz and Madrimov's for an interim belt. I'm not sure. Although the heavyweight fight is for an interim belt as well. Anyway, so Adames and Shiraz. Look, Adames, not the most graceful type of guy, but he's hungry, he's tough, he's hard. And Shiraz, who is just unbelievably big for the weight at 160. This will be an entertaining fight. Look, the question marks I've got on both guys. I've got Adames, who is so, even though he's the champion, is so sort of almost like he's raw. He's just, where's he from? The Dominican Republic, I think he is. Just a guy with no grace, or he's just hard and tough and throws bombs. And then you have Shiraz, who is tall, he's rangy, he's slick, really good kid of punches, but raw and can be got to, he can be hit. So this is, while I don't necessarily think it's one of those fights that I'll be jumping out of bed in the morning to watch, it's going to be quite the entertaining fight. Now, we've got to make a pick. Come on, man. Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. You're being silly. All right, we'll leave that there. If I've got to make a prediction, I would say that I think Hamza Shiraz outboxes Adames. If I've got to make that prediction, I'm not confident about it at all, because I can see Adames getting to Shiraz and maybe hurting him. He can be hit, he can be hurt, but I've just got a feeling that Shiraz, maybe after a few, I won't say anxious moments, but after a few moments where he might wear a few, and Adames might have his moments, I just think Shiraz will outbox him and win a 12-round decision and claim that 160-pound belt. And then all of a sudden, who knows what might happen with that, with some big fights for Shiraz with likes of Yanabek and Lara and these types of guys. All right, the next one. This fight is, I'm really surprised this is so high. This is Shakur Stevenson and Josh Padley. Now, I thought If it was Floyd Schofield in this fight with Shakur Stevenson, I would still think it's too high on the card. But we have a late replacement, an unknown in Josh Padley for the WBC 135-pound title as the third last fight on the card. It doesn't make sense to me, but if this is the right order, well, we're going to have to put up with it, because I was hoping that Shakur Stevenson would be well down the card. And if I didn't get up to like 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock, whatever it might be, I might actually miss his fight, but it looks like I'm going to have to sit through it. This, though, will be a lot more entertaining. I watched a bit of Josh Padley. If you don't know Josh Padley, you would have, if you watched the Riyadh card in August last year with Crawford and Madrimov, you would have seen him on there. He had an upset over, I think it was Mark Hamilton was his name, who was a very, very good, well, I thought he looked like a really good fighter, but Padley caused the upset, dropped him, and really, really good win for Padley. But having a good look at the fight and a couple of his others, I just really struggle to see how he's going to get near Stevenson as far as Stevenson's skill. Now he's tough, he's rugged, he loves to punch, he loves to come at you, he loves to throw bombs. But as far as his skill set goes, a little bit limited. And I just don't think, thanks Neil, I just don't think he's going to be able to get close enough to Stevenson and cause any damage. I think if he does get in close, Stevenson's got such good ring IQ, I think that he'll easily tie him up, twist him, turn him. And I just don't see him being effective. And I actually sort of see this just being a shutout 12-round decision. Maybe Stevenson gets to him late, maybe 10th, 11th round, whatever it might be, 12th round. But if I've got to pick a result, I've probably got to say Stevenson by shutout decision. I can't really see Padley winning more than 1 or 2 rounds, which will be a little bit of a sour note, I think, for everyone watching, because you've got the feeling that I can just see Padley trying his best for 12 rounds to get to Stevenson. He'll be going after him with all he has. And Stevenson, who's just so far ahead as far as boxing IQ goes, will just be sidestepping and pivoting and tying him up and staying at range, picking and poking, and just winning. A pretty dull decision, if you ask me. So it'll be a game performance from Padley, but one-sided for Stevenson as far as I'm concerned. The next fight on the card, Joseph Parker, Martin Bacoli. Wow. Well, this will be, I think, actually a lot better fight than the Dubois fight, if that is possible. Just speaking of this fight, Ben Shalom, the promoter or manager, whatever it is, I think he's his boxer, the boxer promotional company's CEO or head, whatever he is, and he said it's the easiest fight he ever made in his life. Now, what apparently happened, they were at the press conference, and it was announced at the time that Dubois had fallen ill, and it looked like he was out. So you can imagine Joseph Parker his heart would have sank at that time. Now, apparently at the press conference, Shalom was sitting there. He must have been on the phone. He called Bacoli's manager, I think it was, and said, "What do you reckon? Is this something we might look at?" And apparently his manager must have quickly spoken to Bacoli, and literally within a couple of minutes, it was on. He said it was so easy to make. He said Bacoli was pretty much on a plane later that day and on his way to Riyadh. Oh, there's a bit of leaf on my shoulder there. So that's how easy it was made. Look, when you've probably got a couple of $1 million on the line too, it's probably not that hard when you're a heavyweight, when you can just roll up. Now, the big question I got is, and I didn't actually think of this yesterday when I was talking about this fight. I did say that I thought Bacoli would probably stop Joseph Parker just with the styles and everything else. One thing I didn't really factor in, though, is what sort of shape is Bacoli in? It's one thing that this is Martin Bacoli, but what sort of shape is he in? You would think he's been training, he's semi-ready to go. I think he's weight-wise, it was very similar to what he normally weighs in. So you'd think that he's been training for something and he's good enough to go. And when you've got a couple of $1 million probably riding on it, you're going to jump on a plane. But that's probably the big intangible for me. I think if he rolls up and he's actually in shape, ready to go, I can just see Joe boxing well for a few rounds and maybe winning a few of those early rounds and picking Bacoli apart. But I can just see Bacoli sort of getting to Parker as the fight goes on. Having said that, if his preparation is not 100%, maybe as the fight goes on, maybe Joseph Parker boxes smart for 5 or 6 rounds from long distance, from long range, and then picks it up in the later rounds and gets over the top of a tiring Bacoli. That seems to be sort of the thoughts on that. So I'm really split on what's going to happen because of that. So you've either, if Boli turns up in shape, I think he beats Joseph Parker. If he turns up at 85, even 90%, I think Joseph Parker can get the job done over Boli. So if I've got to make a pick, I think I'm going to, and this will really make a few of you happy there, I think I'm going to flip. I'm thinking that on 2 or 3 days' notice, how could you be possibly be 100%? Now, I know, again, I said yesterday that Boli would probably, in my opinion, stop Joseph Parker. But the more I think about it, I just don't know how you can be right to go 100%. Joseph Parker is 100%, although he did come in heavy. The heaviest he's been in his career. But I just don't know how Boli can come in and be at his best. So I think I'm going to flip and say that Joseph Parker wins by 12-round decision. I think he's smart enough. He's got a great IQ, Joseph Parker. I think he, again, boxes cautiously for 6 rounds and then picks it up, and I think he comes over the top of Boli and wins a decision. So, yes, I have flipped. Then in the main event, of course, Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev. This is probably one I'm not that stressed about spending too much time with. I think, to be honest with you, I just think we're going to get a carbon copy of the first fight. I think you're going to, well, what could Beterbiev do? Dmitry Bivol's got a few other dimensions, you would think, or a few other layers he could add to himself. But what is Beterbiev going to, what's he going to add? He's just that type of fighter. He's going to fight exactly the same way as he did in the first fight. And if Bivol wants to back up, he's going to follow him around the ring and do what he does. He's going to try and those clubbing punches that he has. And if Bivol comes at him, well, Beterbiev will still stand in the centre of the ring and trade with him. So I think in that aspect, we know exactly what we're going to get from Artur Beterbiev. As far as Bivol goes, this is the question. Does he try and fight a bit more with Beterbiev? Does he try and box a bit more? Although that's probably not going to be possible because it's all he did in the first fight. Or does he try and mix it up a little bit more? And that's where I think he can win the fight. He has to mix it up, the boxing and the punching, a lot more. I think last time he was far too cautious, and now it's easy to say, well, you just got to trade a little bit more with Beterbiev and job done. But yeah, I just think I can just see Bivol pretty much maybe starting a little bit more aggressive, but ending the same way when he you know, that strength and power that Beterbiev has. I just don't think it'd be smart for Bivol to do it for the whole fight. So I think he might start maybe a little bit aggressive, but I think as the fight sort of settles in, you might see Bivol going back to boxing from a long range. Maybe, you know, the plan could be is to maybe box smart for the first 2.5 rounds and, 2.5 minutes of the round, and keep it even and, keep on your toes and just keep in the round, and then maybe in the last 30 seconds, maybe try and turn it on a little bit more, a la Sugar Ray Leonard against Marvin Hagler back in the day, where that last 30 seconds where it might be a little bit even and too close to call, maybe he then starts to trade and goes with Beterbiev and maybe catches him unaware for the last 15, 20, 30 seconds of the round and tries to steal the round that way. Let's not forget, by the way, the first fight was so close. I had Bivol winning. I'll make no qualms about that. So I don't think he has to do a lot to tweak it and maybe push or tip the scales in his favour. So it might just be a little thing like that, where rather than just boxing for the whole round, he's got to pick it up in the last 20 or 30 seconds and try and steal the round that way. And trade with Beterbiev, I'm talking about. And you remember that's what Leonard did with Hagler. Box for the first 2 minutes 30, 2 minutes 40, whatever it might have been, kept the round even, was up in the air, and then he would flurry hard in the last sort of 15 to 20 seconds. Maybe that's a tactic that Bivol could use, because that's really the only thing I can think of. I think if he tries to use the same strategy as he did last time against Beterbiev, well, we might get just simply the same result. If he tries to slug with Beterbiev, well, good luck with that, because Beterbiev is one of the best sluggers out there. So maybe that's probably the only option. Or, I'm not sure who the judges are, but maybe he backs himself and fights the same style as he did last time and just hopes that the different judges will see it in his favour this time, because it was so close last time. Anyway, there's so many variables out there, but if I've got to pick one, I'm still going to pick... Geez, it's such a tough fight. I think I'm going to stick with Beterbiev. I just think sometimes, I think I said the other day, whoever wins the first fight generally wins the second fight. I know there has been other cases, but I've just got a feeling in this aspect. I'm just not quite sure what else Bivol can do except that little strategy I just said then. I think Better Beef might, maybe from his end, maybe just pick it up a little bit more and be a little bit busier this time himself. So maybe that's his little tweak of his game plan. I've just got a feel, just all it is a gut feel, because it could go anyway. I'm going to stick with Better Beef on points again over Dimitri Bivol. In some way, I sort of hope that Bivol wins because we might get the trilogy, but do we really want the trilogy, especially with some really other good fights out there that that could be made? Because to be honest with you, even if Bivol beats Better Beef, I would love to see David Benavides fight whoever wins. So if Bivol wins, it's Benavides versus Bivol. If it's Better Beef, it's Better Beef versus Benavides. Geez, that'll be a mouthful, won't it? If it's Better Beef versus Benavides, imagine that, trying to say that 3 times fast. But either way, should be a great card. Really looking forward to it. I'm not quite sure whether I'm going to do a watch along. I probably won't. I'm going to be out very, very late tonight. We've got a function at our hotel or our pub, and I'm going to get home very late. So I'll either not go to bed, or if I do, I'm not going to get a lot of sleep. So I'm not sure I'll be in a state to do a watch along, but maybe next time. But guys, hope you have a great day watching the fights, morning slash early morning slash maybe early afternoon, who knows. But I will do a full review. There won't be a walking boxing tomorrow, I wouldn't have thought, just maybe a review. And then back to it on Monday morning. So guys, have a great weekend, enjoy the fights, and we'll catch you tomorrow.